Leadership is the most important thing in every organization, in every society. Our problems start and end with leadership. With good leadership, you are likely to resolve most of the problems organizations and society have. So when you talk about being wealthy or being successful, is how many people have you made successful? Now that is the secret. That is what inspires me to seek to protect those who work with me. And that is what money cannot buy. Value. People follow you because they see you as a vehicle through which they can attain their objectives.
Hello everyone, you're welcome to this Elanhub conversation. My name is Dr. Sarah Chideberejo. Today we are sitting down with the amazing Professor Isaac Zeb-Obipi. He is larger than life, and at the end of this interview, you know why. Prof, thank you so much for according us this opportunity. We're really grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so Professor Zeb-Obipi is, of course, a professor of management with the Rivers State University. He is also a traditional ruler. He's the head of Ogulacha War Canoe House in Okrika, Rivers State, Nigeria. He's married to the beautiful Victoria Zeb-Obipi. He has children, of course. He's grounded in economics, management, a PhD in organizational behavior. I don't want to list the amount of affiliations he's got because the list is endless. Specializations in organizational behavior, human resources management, and industrial behavior. Prof, how did you come this far? This is a lot. And I have a lot to ask you.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Before we go on, I would like to ask you, you've held different offices here.
Yes, I have.
HOD for many years.
Yeah.
Dean, Student Affairs. Yeah. I repeat, Dean, Student Affairs for many years. He's the ex-president of the Senior Staff Club, the current director of our ICT unit. Before his university administration as an undergraduate, he served as the president of the National Union of University, postgraduate president, and the national secretary for Rivers State University Alumni Association worldwide. It's a lot to read out, but it will seem that the combination, economics, management, organizational behavior, was this a deliberate choice?
Yeah, economics was accidental. I started off with a desire to read law, actually, and circumstances of ignorance and lack of proper mentoring led to my choices at the level of secondary school, of combination of subjects and institutions to go to attend, led me to economics. And when I noticed that I made A1 in economics anyway, and now found myself studying economics, I made the best out of it, and I enjoyed it. And then, of course, economics, you know, is the queen of the social sciences. So I enjoyed it. Then, in course of teaching, I chose to go into business administration, and then that informed my going to do the Master of Business Administration MBA. And then within the field of management, I chose organizational behavior. So my PhD is in organizational behavior. However, the field of application of OB is human resource management and industrial relations. So you really cannot practice OB without dealing with people and their collectivities.
And you've been dealing with people for a very long time.
Yes.
As a head of department,
yes.
Of course, running a department at this university is a lot of work. And then
2 departments.
Yes, OIM and management, yes, for many years. I think the most challenging, I'll think, just looking from the outside, will be dealing with students. How did you cope in that office for so many years? I talked to a couple of persons, and they just refer to you as a student's man. You are the man that everyone recognizes. How did you deal with that?
Because students are human beings. They have their desires, they have their aspirations, they have their needs. All they need from those managing them or anybody managing them is to acknowledge this. The moment you're able to acknowledge this, you find no difficulties managing them. You must put yourself in their shoes, feel their pains, anticipate their challenges. And the moment you're able to do that, they will grow to love you, they will come to love you. Sometimes they don't even understand the depth of their problems. You should be able to analyze their problems and enable them to understand their problem. And the moment you lead them to understanding their problem, you are halfway solving their problem for them. So sometimes they will come to my office and leave my office without getting exactly what they wanted, but I pointed them towards the direction of getting a solution. So by so doing, it becomes easier to manage them. And that was why I was Dean of Student Affairs for 7 years. Almost 7 years. I assumed office 3rd November 2015, and I left 28th of March 2022, and did more than the necessary tenures any Dean of Student Affairs would do. In fact, I was the longest serving DSA in Nigeria before I left, and the university had no student crash.
That's the excellent part. Yeah. Dealing with students' restiveness, that's a major challenge. It would seem, therefore, that your groundedness in management, you applied it. I mean, it's a lived experience now. What tips do you have, therefore, for people who find themselves in that position now or in the future? What would you say?
First, you must show understanding of the challenges of students. Of course, I had no difficulties doing that because I was a student leader. In fact, I started leading students right in my primary school. Wow. I was assistant senior boy, became senior prefect, became president of the National Union of River State Students, national president, became president of Postgraduate Students Association. Now, in course of all this, I had opportunity to deal with the leadership of institutions. So from the angle of the students, I know how they feel. So it wasn't difficult for me to handle that. Secondly, you must show empathy with students. Some of them are going through challenges that we didn't go through while we were in school. So the moment you show empathy, they get to open up to you, they get to understand you. In fact, before they take action, they will even inform you, they will let you know. All right? Thirdly, you must be sincere and genuine with them. You know, don't play games. That's what we call academics game. You know, don't play academic games with students, because if you play academic games, because they belong to a very special group of people. They are very idealistic, and they are, you know, what they call youthful exuberance. Yes. So the possibility of checking, they have a lot of energy. So if you play games with them, they will see through you. And then when they see through you, they will lose confidence in you, they will not trust you. Then you start having difficulties.
It would seem, Prof, therefore, that your life is charted along the course of leadership. If you started from primary school, secondary school, university days, and now you're running the ICT unit, it's a lot. What are you thinking in the future? Is there politics anywhere in the world?
I'm already a politician. I have attempted to be the chairman of my local government area council some time ago. And of course, there is this feeling that I'm more cut out for academics than politics. So we take politics as hobby. So keep doing it. Because leadership is the most important thing in every organization, in every society. Our problem starts and end. Our problems start and end with leadership. With good leadership, you are likely to resolve most of the problems organizations and society have. For example, what is leadership? The process of influencing behavior towards achieving a desired goal over time. And there are 5 key elements there: the leader, the followers, and the followers are the essence of leadership. So without followers, there will be no leaders. True. Now, the significance of this is that to be a successful leader, you must pay attention to your followers. And one area you should pay attention to is the ability to influence their behavior, the power to influence their behavior. And is there any better way of influencing their behavior than allocating satisfaction to them, giving them value? Yeah. Value. People follow you because they see you as a vehicle through which they can attain their objectives. So if you cease to be a vehicle through which they can attain their objectives, then you cease to be a good leader. So leaders must pay attention to it. And that's why I'm also interested, very, very interested in the element of leadership in society.
Awesome. I talked to a couple of students, and not only are they excited that your inaugural is coming up, But they also pointed me in certain directions regarding some of your thoughts in the past around the challenges that graduates face when they leave school. I listened to the interview, and you said the following. You identified 3 elements. You talked about opportunity, and by that you meant the opportunities are not there in the first instance. You also talked about unemployability. That means people are there to be hired. They are not just qualified or skilled enough. And then lastly, underemployment. Do you still think these are the challenges?
In fact, the problem has been accentuated by our economy, by the circumstances of today, by our national leadership, our leadership at various levels, federal, state, and local government, because every day the opportunities are shrinking. So meanwhile, the universities are producing more people. You will expect more unemployment in future. So the situation is still as it is. If we are shying away from saying it is worse now, but so I strongly hold to onto those views, and the opportunities are not enough. And the existing opportunities often, we do not have persons who are really qualified to do that, because just imagine the kind of graduates we're having now. And the problem, most times they point fingers at the university that produces the graduate. No, these people from primary school have been ill-prepared for secondary education. From secondary education, they are ill-prepared for tertiary education. And now tertiary education, as an individual lecturer, as a group of lecturers, you can do little or nothing, because you have pressures on, let them just pass them on. So everybody joins the wagon of just passing them on. That's the problem we have.
Okay, now that you've delved into education, come 2023, we'll be electing new leaders. Yeah. And one of the major conversations is around education, because we have over 18 million of our people out of school. What advice, you've spent years in this sector, you're grounded here. What advice do you have for them? What should we be looking out for in terms of a leader when they talk about education? Or what policies will you like to highlight or influence?
I want us to be able to elect leaders who value education. Not by words, but people who have gone through education. Not by just going through it. People who have absorbed the values of education. Education not applied to solving problems is no education. So we should be able to elect people who can demonstrate that their education is functional education. Unfortunately, we do have such persons, but our system is designed in such a way not to turn up those people for election, or when the system turns them up for election, we end up not being able to vote them into power. We should be able to do that. We should be able to have a system where we can hold people accountable for the things they've done in the past. We should be able to measure the promises they've made vis-a-vis the achievements they've attained. It shouldn't be business as usual. In fact, the danger of business as usual is that we continue to perpetuate the inadequacies we have in our leadership. We are not able to punish leaders who have failed to deliver. But you see, if we failed, or if we refuse to elect those who have failed to deliver, we'll be sending signal to those who we eventually elect that they could also be so punished if they don't deliver. That will make them responsible to the needs of society, including in the area of education. It doesn't make sense to me at all why we should have our students out of school by a government, and any reasonable person should think that that government should be voted into power again. It doesn't make sense to me. But we have people who want that. So it's not a matter of political party. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And you say, I have a problem for things that do not add up. The element of criticism, the element of being critical, the element of evaluation, the element of assessing things, whether they are logical or they're illogical, whether they make sense or they do not make, whether they are acceptable or they're not acceptable. It's unacceptable to me for any government who has made promises that have not delivered whether at the federal level, at state level, at local government level, why we should vote for such government. If we have any reason for their not deliverance, for their not delivery, we should be able to know why and refuse to give them the opportunity to deceive us again. Now, that is the challenge Nigeria has to deal with in 2023.
Awesome. Now that you've raised the issue of selection, talked about leadership so passionately, I talked to some students, right? I think that's where you have the largest number of persons who love and practically adore you. And they highlighted two major achievements. They said to me, you've made NYSC, their process towards going for NYSC, really simple. And then the second one is the selection process for who gets to be SUG president, what you did in terms of elections. Tell us about that.
Yes. When I assumed the leadership of the Director of Student Affairs with my team, I noticed a backlog of our graduates that couldn't go for service. And we had to mobilize, even got some ad hoc staff to ensure that we clear the backlog. And then we put in process identifying and encouraging students or graduates to quickly register the moment the Senate declares, approves their result. And that has been very, very helpful. And so we have our graduates going. Right now, we don't have backlog of graduates going for service again. The moment Senate approves the result, the student is able to get the statement of result. You go to the Director of Student Affairs. We have an ICTC unit there, and a desk officer there. We have officers assigned various faculties. So you go just to the officer responsible for a faculty, you are registered, and long before NYSC calls for mobilization. So by the time NYSC will call for mobilization, we are already ready. You know, so that problem has been solved. And before I left, we are thinking about digitalizing the process, wherein there will be some virtual connection between the exams and record office, the result, Senate office responsible for result, and the Director of Student Affairs, so that it will be easy. The moment results are approved, we don't need to wait for the students to go, our graduates, our graduates, to go and get their statement of result to come and register. The moment it's approved, it is in the system there at a Senate office, result office. It is there in exams and record, and it's synchronized with the unit at Student Affairs. And so we even avoid the mistakes we make in typing in students' name. Sometimes avoid the mistake that occur in typing in their departments and the grades to which they pass. We even avoid the temptation of our students going to fake statement of results in anticipation of Senate approving their result. And sometimes by the time Senate approves their result, because they want to go with a given badge for the NYSC, they go and fake a statement of result and bring for us to register them. And in course of the faking, they will make mistake in the date of the approval of the result. So when eventually Senate approves it and will now send the master list to NYSC, it will now conflict what we have registered the students with, you know. And we were working on that before I left. I know that the incumbent will be able to succeed with it, because technology indeed provides for a leveraging process that facilitates work. And it's part of what I'm going to talk about in my inaugural lecture, because one of those things that determine productivity at the workplace. Now, that leads me to the issue of the selection process, e-voting. When I came on board, I noticed that the university was not able to conduct universal suffrage, all students participating in election. They were having a delegate system. Now, a delegate system wherein we then had 7 faculties, 20 students per faculty will be elected, will be nominated as delegates. Then they wait till during holiday period when students were no longer on campus. They will invite them to arena to vote students. And then students will come back only to see banners of SUG officers welcoming them. Only the executive. And why were they forced to do that? They were forced to do that because of the crisis involved in general or Congress election. Students being kidnapped, ballot boxes stolen, snatched and run away, guns being shot, heads being broken, bottles being, all sorts of guns, harmful objects taken to the venue of the election. These things cause the university, in order to avoid such crises, to go to the delegates election. However, we discovered even the delegate election had its challenges, where there's what they call delegate ghosting, delegate trading, stakeholders influence. In fact, before an election, you will already know the winner of the election, because the stakeholders determine who will become delegate. Sometimes a delegate whose name is on the list as delegate could be kidnapped through the fishery gate, the Ajib gate, on the door of the election, and then some other person will come and wear his tag to answer his name, and after the election, a person will appear, or a candidate will be kidnapped, and after the election, because he needed to be there, or she needed to be there for people to queue behind him or her, and then after the election, they release the person. So I thought that with technology, we should be able to solve the problem. So that led to the introduction of electronic voting, which my predecessor had already thought about, and so in his handover note encouraged me to ensure that I proceed to a logical conclusion. And then the leadership I met, Fetina, was prepared to work with me. It was a very difficult process. Students were very skeptical. They felt management had its candidates, the agenda, they didn't believe it. But by the end of the election, they carried me on their shoulders and they were very happy.
Yes, those pictures are everywhere on social media.
So, and that is because I believe that any student that emerges through an electoral process, and students have chosen that candidate, management should be able to work with the candidate because the person is a student.
I'm sold on everything you said. Now I understand why that person left a comment on your Facebook. I was going through it yesterday, and they said, we nominate Professor Zeb-Obipi as the next INEC chairman.
Okay. So because there's no need to be partial. As a human being, you may have a soft spot for a candidate, but what is important is the majority vote. And you must comply with the majority vote. And the moment the students see you as not interfering, providing a level playing field for them, they will believe in you, they will accept that. And you see, it is also advantageous because the student that emerges as the leader is a popular candidate, and since he's a popular candidate, he'll be able to control the behavior of the candidate. The students, having chosen him, will give themselves up to his leadership. All right, they will submit to his leadership. So it makes the problem easy for us. In fact, that is the secret behind our ability in this university, when it became necessary to change, to increase fees. This university increased fees a few times, but other universities increased fees, and they had crisis. Sure. A student was shot dead. Some schools closed down, but the university increased because the leadership of the SUG was a product of the majority of the students, and the students believed in that leadership. So when the leadership was taken into confidence, made to negotiate with management, and somehow made management to compromise by, instead of charging a particular level of fees, management came down. The students saw the effort. Yes, the students felt part of the process and saw that their leadership had been able to negotiate something good for them, and therefore it wasn't a problem having that.
Wow, congratulations, Prof, on that. It must, I mean, listening to you talk about it, I'm not sure it was just as easy as you explained, but well done, well done. Okay, so I've talked about students, but I want to highlight what I heard from people who work with you at the college level, or just people you're mentoring as assistant lecturers. And they said to me, the most important thing for us and why we appreciate him so much is he speaks for us when we are not in the room. And I'm part of the university. I know how important it is to have people who will protect your interests when you're not present. So thank you, because he said to me to say thank you. But what inspires that, though?
Most times, an opportunity you have to lead people doesn't necessarily mean you are the best. It doesn't mean that if you are not there, some other person couldn't have occupied that position and do something. Thirdly, It is for a while. You are not going to be there forever. So you ask yourself, the moment you are no longer here, and whoever comes to take over from you, will you be happy to be treated the way you treated others while you were there? That's the inspiration. So you look at the opportunity of your being there as one of empowering and enabling those working with you. And empowering and enabling them provide an opportunity again to bring out the best out of them. And most importantly, it gives you, if you do it genuinely, it gives you a sense of satisfaction. You have them in your debt. Most of them will be grateful for you forever. And that is what money cannot buy. So when you talk about being wealthy or being successful, is how many people have you made successful? Now that is the secret. That is what inspires me to seek to protect those who work with me or those who work under me. I'll give you a typical example. While I was Dean of Student Affairs, during the time of the acting Vice Chancellor, something happened. The Mathematics Association of Nigeria or something, one organization, came to this university for a conference, and they wanted to use NDDC as hostel to accommodate some of the staff, some of the members for the conference. Within that period, the head of halls genuinely applied for permission to go on holidays during her leave, and she traveled out of the country. But before she left, she properly briefed me on who should be acting on her behalf. And so they went, and then when the people came, I called the person she left behind and asked her how things were, and she assured me that everything was okay. The people could come. And then on a Sunday, the program was to start on a Monday. Then on a Sunday, we found that the hostess were not ready. And of course, the acting vice was very, very mad. She was very angry. She, yes, her heads must roll. And then that Sunday, she came to the campus. We went to the hostel that Sunday, saw the situation. And what I was after was how to remedy the situation. Then after, how to handle the persons who probably have defaulted or had failed in his or her task. So we managed and then got the situation under control. First thing Monday morning, there was like a management meeting. We need to deal with this person. We did that and all the rest. Called the DSA, and I sat down. They talked, everybody talked, how to deal with the person. But while they were talking, what was going through my mind was this lady got appropriate approval. As she traveled, she mentioned to me. So should I allow her to be punished for that? And then she handed the matter to somebody else. The person failed. Again, given the level of the person in the hierarchy, should I allow the person to be punished? And I raised up my hand. And everybody, they looked at me, and I said I was responsible. I just said I was responsible. If you drop a pin there, you will hear it. Every place became quiet. They said, how? Then I gave you this explanation. And I said, I was supposed to check. If I had, although I was told that everything was ready, if I had gone to check, probably I would have discovered those things we discovered Sunday morning. But knowing how I worked with this other one that was that traveled out of the country, I took it for granted that things were in order. So I was responsible. And that was how the matter died. And as at the time I was talking to them, I said, I remedied the situation. Now, that is what it means. Of course, I went back to the person and then told the person, you didn't do well and all the rest, and like kneeling down, begging and all the rest. But I know that that error wouldn't occur again. So it is because You put yourself in the shoes of your subordinate. You feel what they feel. You know their circumstances. You gauge their emotions. And people do have emotions, you know. And the emotions come to play at work. That's how it is.
This has been a lesson, like I'm having a fresh education, but thank you for all you've been doing. So let's talk about your big day. Inaugural lectures are, the way we see them, an opportunity for the university to sell you as their pride and joy. You're a professor now, they want to announce you to the world. Of course, everybody knows you're a professor, but it's just the formalization of it all. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You've said to us, you'll be speaking on people management tripod and worker productivity, the solute, the solvent, and solution. And I'm dancing at that. I don't want you to give everything away, but prime your audience using this platform to say, what are we expecting of this?
What they should expect is that one of the challenges at the workplace, an important and crucial one at that, is productivity. Productivity. Everything about work is productivity. We go to work, we produce. For the organization, our productivity determines the performance of the organization. And you know what? Society depends on the performance of the organization for its well-being. So if there's problem with productivity of the worker, there's problem of performance organization. Then there's problem with the standard of living of society. How do we solve this problem? There are several attempts to resolve this problem. Several attempts. They've looked at several factors. But one important factor is people. People are at the center of productivity. Therefore, if you manage people better, you are likely to enhance their productivity. So how do you manage people better?
And who best to tell us about managing people than Professor Zeb-Obipi? This is amazing.
That's the point I wish to make.
Yes, you've led your entire life leading people and with much recorded success. Congratulations. But I must say, you got here because Madam is doing everything right. Yeah. So congratulations on that. Any word for her? Because I know she'll be watching this. Any word for her?
She has done well. You see, that's the beauty of having a very supportive partner, a grow-along partner. Partner of your youth, you know. She understands you. So, in the middle of the night, or early in the morning, and I'm walking, she will rise to feel my temperature, touch my body and see whether I'm feeling hot. She'll ask me, have you taken your BP drugs? Don't you think you should rest a while? She thought the body is too cold. She gets balm to try to, I'm walking and then she's massaging me. So she has been very supportive.
Couple goals.
You know, she's been supportive.
Wow.
My table is scattered, too many papers, and it could be distractive in some time, you know. And then by the time I get back, she'll put the table in such a way that it is even luring me to go back to work. And then I'll look for certain things. She said, just don't worry, I kept it in the library here, I kept it there, I kept it there. So she is my gratitude.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. That's really deep. And I think one of the strongest messages that you've left here for us to learn from. Thank you so much. We're really grateful for this opportunity. This has been an Elanhub conversation with the amazing, phenomenal Professor Isaac Zeb-Obipi. Thank you so much, Prof, for having us.
Thank you.
We're grateful
for the opportunity of sharing my thoughts.
Thank you.